Good morning, everyone. It's Liam and Michael, and Jonathan's on his way. He's a busy man, getting some stats and some groundbreaking news.
he's getting all the big scoop from us.
He is.
Can I just say, on my way here, you know how they say you get 4 seasons in one day in Melbourne?
Yes.
I got about 4 seasons in 2 minutes, I reckon. I was walking along, and it was raining, it suddenly went sunny, it suddenly started snowing, and then we were back to normal again. 4 seasons in 2 minutes.
There was a tornado.
There was a tornado.
Earthquake.
There were cows flying around. It was pretty crazy.
For some reason, there was a volcano. I don't know how that happened, but
So yes, I am here. It's a relief. It's great.
Yes.
All of those listeners who aren't from Melbourne, you can thank your lucky stars you're not here. But if you are from Melbourne, well, you know, you might have just witnessed one of the most amazing weather patterns that you'll probably ever see.
Well, let's start things off. This time last week,
Yes.
I sat here and said to you,
You did.
that our two teams are destined for a grand final. As soon as I pumped them up.
We pumped them up too much. It's the commentator's curse.
It was.
This always happens. I also said that Cale Hooker was going to have a good game on the weekend, and that backfired on me.
Yeah.
And so was my man Anthony Tippenwoody. Thought he was going to have an absolute blazing game and didn't do anything. But yeah, our two teams, I would have to say, are probably back to square one. That's probably the judgment you'd give them after this round.
I still don't have any of them in the top 8, so that's all good.
Boys!
It was hello, Jonathan.
This reminds me of Conor McGregor coming to the New York UFC card. It's the first time mixed martial arts has been legalised in New York, and he comes in 10 minutes late, and he says, "I'm running early on my time." But to my standards,
we're running on Irish time.
So, boys, let's get down to business. What are we talking about? We're currently talking about the Freo Essendon debacle on the weekend. Well, it was, I don't know, for you it was the fact that Richmond had a lead in the last minute and they didn't blow it. For us, it was just that we no-showed in Adelaide.
Yeah, it was pretty disappointing to see that kind of performance. But, I mean, Adelaide are very, very hard to play at home. But you saw Melbourne take a model over there that worked. And, you know, you saw other clubs like North Melbourne also emulate those plans and be able to beat Adelaide at their own game. But it seems like you didn't have really much time to tag Rory Sloane because players such as the Crouch brothers and those big damaging forwards, well, they were just too good.
I actually didn't watch the game, but
no.
The game raised 2 questions for me. One, is Freo now done? I remember last year Freo on a 3-game winning streak and then absolutely went downhill from there. Or 2, is Adelaide back to their best, their Essendon 2000 best, their premiership favourites?
Well, their form is fluctuating at the moment.
Yes.
They put on a show against Freo, 100 points. The first time in Ross Lyons' career that he has lost by 100 points.
That is correct.
Fife also had a clanger record, might I add.
13 clangers.
He's normally an efficient player, isn't he, Liam?
Nah, not by foot.
Not by foot?
He's never been a good kicker.
Really?
Nah.
I've always considered him a good kick.
If you remember the 2013 grand final, 2 outbouts on the full and a point.
Yeah, that's always going to haunt him, isn't it?
Oh, it will. But yeah, for Adelaide, they have to go to Geelong next week and win. That's as simple as that. You do good. You look at Port Adelaide and who they've bet, and they've bet the likes of Freo, Carlton, Brisbane. Who's that? Bet another team, and the Gold Coast.
Yeah,
but they've lost against GWS, Adelaide, West Coast and Geelong.
No, you're absolutely correct about this. This next game for Adelaide is huge because you remember last season when they came up against Geelong, both in Adelaide and at Skilled Stadium.
Yeah,
they just didn't manage to do anything. So this is a huge game, and it's going to be very interesting to see. Adelaide have already came out and said they're going to try and tag Dangerwood, the combination, but no team has really successfully done that yet besides Levi Greenwood on Selwood. But I'll be very intrigued to see this.
Said he's going to go tag Rory Sloane, so it's going to be just a tagging game.
But Adelaide don't really have a legitimate tagger. I mean, Curtly Hampton was doing a little bit before he got injured through the midfield there. The Crouch brothers, you know, whether they put a bit of a minor tag, I don't think it will be a heavy tag because you've still got to get that attacking style of play going. I think Brad Crouch or his brother, they might go to Dangerfield. You have to tag Dangerfield out of the pair. He's just too explosive.
No, I think Joel Selwood's the match winner. Joel Selwood, if you want someone to win you the match, even though Dangerfield kicked the winning goals, Joel Selwood.
I disagree. He's
Do you remember those goals for the boundary?
Dangerfield kicked 3 goals on the last game, and he is just too explosive to let loose at stoppages. You need just a tug of the jumper. Make sure he doesn't get his full sprint in before he gets into the ball. And it's going to be a real battle of the rucks. So Zach Smith and Sam Jacobs. Sauce Jacobs. Whoever can get first use to their midfielders will come out on top. A lot of this talk has been about tagging. I reckon that's a moot point. The point is that the midfield, it's going to come down to the ruck getting their midfield's first use. And if Geelong get it down there with the likes of Motlop, Harry Taylor's doing okay.
Harry Taylor's doing very well. He's a great contested mark, and he's actually starting to convert a lot of those goals now, which is even better.
I think of the Tomahawk, Mr.
And the
Dopey.
Tomahawk, if he
Dopey.
if he can get his confidence up right at the start, then he's in for a big game. We should also go back to Fremantle as well, because we are saying it's all doom and gloom for them. But if you look at the next 2 weeks, they've got Collingwood at Domain Stadium this coming week. They've got Brisbane at the Gabba, and then they've got a bye. I mean, potentially they could be 8-4, so it's not all doom and gloom for you guys.
The game against Collingwood this week is season defining.
Same with Collingwood as well. I mean, they've got their season on the line too.
Collingwood's out the finals race.
No, if they beat Freo's ahead of them on points.
We're ahead of them by a few games. We're still a game inside the top 8.
So but that's what I'm saying. If Collingwood get a win over Freo, then it bridges that margin a little bit. Whether it'll be interesting to see how Freo responds at their home deck. Yeah. Whether they will respond from that 100-point loss, whether they'll crumble. But having the home ground advantage leans towards Freo there for sure.
And if you know Ross the boss, he wouldn't want another 100-point loss in his career.
Absolutely.
No. So what do you think he'll be doing with the training, Liam? I mean, he's a street coach.
He'll be telling him to bring their runners, for one. 2, he'll be telling them to find their spine or their balls, depends what they lost in Adelaide.
Probably both. But I'll tell you what, though, Roscoe, when I went to Fremantle, I know their training ground is right near the Fremantle prison. Old Fremantle prison. Now,
the old training ground.
Now, if Ross really wants to put some fear into these gentlemen, he might just send them back to the old training ground and say, if you're not good enough, guess where I'm sending you?
Yeah.
Ruthless prison, that one, to say the least. But Aaron Sandilands is a talking point.
He's out.
Will he play this weekend?
I think he's too old. I think I think he's the fact that he's 34 years old. Look what happened to Revolt. They brought him back early. At his age, you take a bit more. 1 week injury is now a 2 week injury.
Well, I want to quickly ask you two about these two players, Aaron Sandilands and Nick Riewoldt. Both two big players, both really influential players if you look at results over the past couple of years, over longevity seasons. Are these two guys pivotal anymore in this season, or do you believe that these two clubs can play better without them?
Well, I think Riewoldt's a very important player for St Kilda. One reason is because Paddy McCartan hasn't quite come on, so he's been stuck in the twos. So they really need McCartan as a number 1 draft pick to cement himself, not as like a number 1 key forward of the competition, just someone who can actually, first of all, play in the AFL. And Nick Riewoldt, I mean, his endurance is just sublime. Sandilands has great game sense, and his first use to midfielders is, paramount. But, Sandilands is crucial to that Freo team. I know Freo have Jonathan Griffin. They have a few ruckmen there. Who do you think will play as the sole ruckman against Brodie Grundy?
I think if Sandilands back, he's playing. If not, he'll stick with Jonathan Griffin.
Hurts me in Supercoach and Fantasy as well, I think, not having Sandilands there, because it's hard to see at this stage whether Bruce is going to get a game for North Melbourne, so it also brings some
there's 2 more games
up.
I want to talk about. One was, I think, was a season-defining, club-defining, premiership-winning type of game by the Giants against West Coast.
How incredible was that?
That's what premierships are made out of. If GWS win the premiership this year, which most of us probably predict they will, I'll look back and be like, that's the game.
That game, I don't think blew out further than 13 points either side.
It was phenomenal.
Just such a close game, such a clutch game. So many players coming into form for both sides. You were right. It was season defining, and one player, Toby Green. Is that the best game you've ever seen him play?
So Gary Lyon made the comment that he should be worth more than Josh Kelly, who's been offered, $1 million over at North. It's a bit of an interesting debate, isn't it?
It is.
Toby Green has reinvented himself in the forward line there. He used to be a midfield magnet.
He was.
In the likes of Tom Mitchell. I mean, he used to rack up the ball, and he was a great player there. But he's really one of the most damaging small forwards in the competition now. He certainly put on another great game against
Incredible.
West Coast. He did an interview with Fox, and he said that if he was playing himself, he wouldn't want to do that because he's such a pest. And but he's one that the
Does
play.
seem like that.
But all teams have a pest like
do.
that who they get around, and the opposition
have.
teams. Hayden Ballantyne is one of them.
Yes.
GWS arguably have a few pests. I think Devon Smith certainly is one that doesn't
Stevie-
shy away from a
Stevie
bit
J.
of stick. And Stevie J, Heath Shaw. I mean, they've got a huge list of guys who don't mind a bit of a
See,
chat
I
off the
think
ball.
you look at Zach Williams is pretty much being taken. Heath Shaw's pretty much taken Zach Williams under his wing
He has.
as a next to be their next rebound defender.
Arguably, Zach Williams playing better than
Yeah.
Heath Shaw at the moment.
Stevie J's taken Toby Green under his wing.
Certainly
And I
has.
think Toby Green is up there with Cyril, the type of clutch. That's that forward that needs 5 minutes in the game.
Oh,
They don't need a whole game. They need 5 minutes. And he proved it. Kicked the goal from one side of the boundary. Goes, I can do this again. Kicked it from the other side. Bada bing, bada boom. The Giants win.
incredible.
Simple as that.
But on this debate about Josh Kelly and Toby Green, Josh Kelly still had an incredible game, setting up a lot of play, still being a ball magnet in the midfield. And one bit of play that was highlighted throughout the weekend and this week
His goal in the
is
third
going to
quarter.
be his goal in the third quarter, but what he actually did with his
Yeah.
running capacity to actually,
He has a tank on him, that kid.
just not only give off the handball, but just keep running forward, lose his man
Yeah.
entirely, and sneak forward and kick that goal.
Well, in the draft combine, when he was about to enter the AFL system, his beep test was through the roof. It was one of the best.
Insane.
Um,
And they're not easy to do if you've ever done a beep
No.
test, listeners out
No,
there.
and running two ways is so important in the modern game.
Very, very important.
Otherwise, you can get exposed on the other end. So I think Josh Kelly, well, he definitely has the endurance ability over Green, but Green doesn't necessarily need that because he's playing more forward now. It's hard to split them because Kelly is seriously a great midfielder, probably the in-form midfielder for GWS at the moment. But if I had to pick one to choose in the team, I'd pick Green because, like you said, Liam, he's a match winner. He only needs about 5 minutes and he can kick goal after goal.
Forwards are very, very hard to
Yes.
come by like that, particularly ones that can go back to the midfield and really generate a lot of play. So
Speaking
it's
of Josh
crucial.
Kelly, with all the speculation that he might leave, he's the only player I've ever seen, apart from probably Dangerfield, that is genuinely probably torn. He seems like he wants to be at the Giants. Like, he seems like he loves the club, he wants to be at the Giants, but then at 22, if someone offers you $9 million, like, that's your
It's hard
life.
to put down.
That's your life set up. Like,
It's very hard to say no to that.
let's talk about another game. And this game I watched start to finish, and I thought to myself, well, just the two legends fighting for the last time, and they're both on their way out, and not as good as they used to be.
I know what you...
Hawthorn versus Sydney.
Yes.
What a game.
This was a great game.
I tell you what, Dan Hanbury probably cost them the game. He goes in another 4 meters on the mark. I know that doesn't sound like much, but to
You're right
your
about
to your
this.
psychology, so Roughhead kicked it from about 50 meters. He would have had to have kicked from about 55.
Ruffy wasn't going to miss, no matter where Hanbury was.
I don't know. I reckon it's more a psychology thing. Like, he made the distance, but it's
Made it comfortably.
but Hanbury, he just kind of left the mark and let his opposition to, he went.
Just had that little
Well,
arc,
he
didn't
could have manned the mark at 50 meters. But Dan Hanbury was spewing after the game.
You could actually tell by his body language right after he kicked the goal. Not only he was deflated that he kicked it, but I think he had an inkling that he made a mistake.
I
on
think
the
you
mark.
guys are underselling Mr. Roughhead here. He's not.
No.
He's the captain of the club.
Yep.
A Coleman medalist. He's kicked 5 goals in the grand final. The last player to do that, I think, was in 07, but who cares about that? Everyone kicked 5 goals in 07.
It was a thrashing.
I think you guys are underselling Jared Roughhead here. He was going to make. I thought he was going to kick it as soon as he marked it. I didn't even know Hanbury was.
It was a beautiful
further up.
kick.
He hasn't
He's a
been in the best
fantastic-
of form though this
That's right.
season.
Granted, he missed a year, and it's not like he missed a year for drugs like Essendon. He
Yeah.
actually missed it with something more important.
Regardless of how he came back, he still was out of form. And Hawthorn really needed him. He certainly showcased his talents in this game. and he won the game off his own boot. But, I mean, Buddy Franklin, kicking five goals. He was on fire.
He looked like he was going to score. Something was going to happen every time the ball was in his area. That's what it felt like all game.
So exciting to watch Buddy Franklin, and just all
Top
those
10.
goals from outside 50, inside 50. He's marking up the ground. Is he one of the best Indigenous players we've seen of all time?
He's up there with probably Adam Goods.
Adam Goods. He, as far as forward talent is concerned, he's just one of the greatest.
I do believe Adam Goods is probably the best Indigenous player, and I still think his heroics in the 2012 grand final is something that you can't match.
That's right.
And I believe,
won the Brownlow twice.
The way he retired in 2015, if he retired then in 2012, he would go on known as the best Indigenous player to ever play, instead of what he was, But Buddy Franklin, he's just so good. He's a match winner. He's definitely a match winner.
And very historically, on that game on Friday night, he did become one of the only players really to get into that top 10. When I say that,
apparently only 10 players are in the top 10.
Only 10 players are in the top 10. I probably worded that not the right way, but he succeeded a lot of players below him, and he sneaks into the top 10, and he's not too far away from the spot number 9. So
look at the way he kicks.
He's not far away.
If he kicks, say, probably more than 2 goals a game, he should beat it by probably early next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And before you know it, you'll be on 1,000 goals. He's got 6 years left.
He's got 6 years left.
Well, Tom Harley, who's involved in Sydney in a manager's capacity at the moment, he said that the way Buddy's playing, he could get a contract extension beyond the contract length he still has currently.
If he still
I think it's a bit too early to say that type of thing, though. I think when you hit 34, we'll see how Buddy's playing then. I don't doubt that he can play beyond another 6 years. It's more, can he play at that level? And Buddy, he's certainly a freak player. I can see him playing for another 8 years.
Yeah.
But it's more about, the Pav is, different athletes, but the Pav in his later years was going on. I think he retired one season too late, to be honest.
Wait a second. He came fourth in the best and fairest in 2016.
But
the Pav was all good in 2016.
But I feel like if they actually had another legitimate second forward, that Pav could have handed over the mantle a season earlier. They have Cam McCarthy now, who's looking good. Someone that Collingwood will have to actually man up properly. Lyndon Dunn might be the one to go to him. He was actually an astute pickup by Collingwood. I didn't rate it at all. It's one of the few trades that Collingwood have actually got right. Yeah, because he can actually kick the ball. So Jack Frost, who went to Brisbane, he wasn't a great kick, but he was a superb athlete. Like, his closing speed was second to none.
Jack Frost doing really well in the reserves of Brisbane.
Frosty.
Great pickup by the Lions.
Great pickup by the Lions.
Cold as ice.
But, it's essential, isn't it, to make sure that you distribute the ball well from the back line. I tell you, a Freo player who should make his debut against Collingwood is Luke Ryan, and this is also a Supercoach and AFL fantasy alert. He is a great kick of the ball. Liam probably knows more about him than me, but he's been on the horizon now for a while.
He's racking up all the, the ball here. He's racking up all that in the WAFL.
Yeah, and
so
he uses the ball extremely
well. So he's not going
to
Fremantle prison this weekend.
No. Well, he was an emergency, so
No,
well, 100-point loss. He's coming back in.
Yeah,
not coming back in. He's going to make his debut.
Oh, you heard it first. He's making his debut.
100%.
So he told you, groundbreaking news.
There you go, groundbreaking news on the Playmakers Vault right here.
Yeah.
5 seasons in one day. There you go.
Yes. So yes, you heard it here first. Luke Ryan's going to make his debut for the Fremantle Dockers against Collingwood.
Now, gentlemen, this week, of course, in fantasy and Supercoach, it's the first major buy. Of course, we had the minimal buy originally with Gold Coast and Port, but this is quite a big one. We've got Carlton missing out. We've got Sydney missing out. And what are the other clubs? We've got St Kilda, the Bulldogs. So it's a pretty big week for buys. So, gentlemen, how many players so far have you got missing out this week?
I've got
like 15.
Yeah.
I don't play Supercoach, but I've got 15.
Yeah,
do you play any of the modes, Liam?
No. I just look up the results and
I'll tell you,
give my input.
I'll tell you what,
Brisbane
it'd be
also.
a good situation to be in, because at the moment I'm stressed trying to cover that donut. In
it's
AFL
tough.
Fantasy, Michael, you actually have 3 trades this week. I'm not
Yep,
sure what it's
same
like.
with Supercoach.
Yeah, so that's handy.
It helps.
I've
used 2 out of 3 so
I will
far.
need to use up all 3 to make sure that a squad of 18 can make it out on the park. In AFL Fantasy, and I assume it's similar in Supercoach, your best 18 players score. So if you have 19 players playing, it's your top 18 players.
That's right.
Who count. Even then, I think the max I might be able to get out on the park is 17. But I'm going to try my best to cover it.
I'm struggling at the moment as well. But one player we should consider for this week is, of course, the Danger Woods brother, Scotty Selwood. A big 112 on the weekend. I think he scored about 124 in fantasy.
Great tackler, fantastic
Great tackler. Averaged, I think, 17 tackles over the last 2 weeks. But his average prior to this season has only been 3 tackles a game, so it's quite low. We may be expecting him to drop below that line because, you know, he's in the team, he's fresh, but how long will this last for? We're not too sure. But he's 281 in Supercoach. He might be a little bit more expensive in fantasy. Of course, you have a bigger budget in fantasy. He's definitely one to get in this week because Geelong don't have the bye until, I think, round 13.
Yeah. We've just got to start. I think he's one of those underrated players as well. People forget that he was the captain of West Coast at one point. Kind of captain when Darren Glass retired mid-season. So he was he shared the captain mantle with Josh Kennedy, Prudis, someone else probably.
He was actually a very, very notable player in that midfield at West Coast.
One there, just because he missed out on the 2015 grand final, that's because his ankle injury and a lack of form, and probably because he was already going to Melbourne. He's one of those players who mentally checked out mid-season.
That's right. So he's a good player to get in. Another player to get in is, and you probably should have had him in last week, but he's a man known by Hugh Greenwood.
Right. Yes. I tell you what, I had him before he even played a game, so I'm playing him.
Here we go.
He's
the man.
He kicked 3 goals in his debut
against the Brizzy Lions.
Yeah, he should maintain his spot in the Adelaide Crows lineup for this week as well. Definitely a pickup if you haven't got him yet. Matthew Scharenberg played well for a long absence there.
He did.
Didn't set the world on fire. How many points did he get in Supercoach though? Was it over 60?
I think he got around. I think he got 50 on the dot, which is still pretty good for a first game. However, is he a liability? Is he a risk this early on to get in, or should we see how he goes in his second week before?
You've heard it from a Collingwood supporter. He is best 22. The talent he has.
This guy with his breaking news here, amazing stuff.
These are big tips for our Supercoach and fantasy fans.
Luke Ryan, 100% he'll make his debut. You can hold me to that.
100%.
And Matthew Scharenberg, he's a best 22 player. He didn't set the world on fire, but the way Buckley spoke about him in the press conference, he really likes his ability to handle adversity. He had 2 ACLs. That's not. But then again, players have come back from worse. How many has Daniel Menzel had? He's had 4.
Yeah, 3 or 4. Yeah.
Alex Johnson's coming back from his 5th in Sydney.
When does he come back in? Out of curiosity. Because he would be a decent player to get into your side when he comes back, I'd imagine.
Surprised he has a knee left though.
That's
right.
I
know Morabito from Freo had 4, and then he did his I think did his knee again. They delisted him.
Wow. But I think
Nick Malcheski had 3.
Yeah. So players play. It can vary with either player. It depends, I suppose, just how hungry you are to get back, and some can be very, very unlucky when they do come back. But it's important this week that you look for your downgrade options. Use all 3 of your trades. Your trades are very important this week, and look for the teams that have their bye right at the very end. And if you've got an absolutely talented player, don't go trading them out this week. Like I've got Mark Murphy and Josh Kennedy.
Yeah.
Josh Kennedy, the Sydney Josh Kennedy. If you have the Kennedy up forward, do you keep him this week or do you trade?
I'm not buying West Coast saying he's only out for 3 weeks.
You don't believe he's out for 3?
I believe he's going to be out for 5, 6.
I
believe it's a bit of a, bit of. I think you can say it better.
Well, it was a bit of a worry because they thought it would be longer than 3 weeks. So he heard a pop. And when you hear something like that, generally it's not a good sign. So it was better than suspected. Whether it is 3 weeks and they try and rush him back because he's a star player,
that's right.
I'm with Liam. They're probably going. I reckon they should give him another week. See, make sure that he comes back to form, because the last thing you want to do is send him out and he gets a reoccurrence of his injury, which does happen in the AFL. Travis Varco's had a few reoccurrences this season, so yeah, I mean, Kennedy's such an important player. His loss against GWS was paramount. What quarter did he get injured in?
Halfway through the last. It was,
okay, that's not really, yeah.
Last thing AFL I want to talk about is 2 contracts. One that came up yesterday, which is, congratulations, Danaher's about to sign a 2-year deal.
Yep, that is the news out of Fairfax.
I don't think Danaher was ever going to leave.
No, he wasn't going to leave.
He was born into Essendon.
He's born and bred Essendon. His family would disown him if he left.
He was born with some needles in his arm, you know what I mean? Pure Essendon.
He was not there, okay? Get off our backs.
Don't blame Danaher.
Don't get me started. All right, go on.
Another one is Dustin Martin. The only thing that annoys me about the Dustin Martin situation is all the talk is about how much would Richmond need to pay him. I'm not a big fan of the money situation here. I'm not a fan of. It's more like, does Richmond love? Does Dustin Martin love Richmond? I granted no, and I think he's off to your club, the Bombers, with your $6 billion deal.
North Melbourne.
Your $6 billion deal.
Yes.
I see.
1.6 billion.
With Fife, it was more about his love for Freo than it is money, and ever since his value's dropped the last few weeks.
Oh yeah.
Like Josh Carley and Dustin Martin have taken more preference than Fife has.
Yeah, no. So with Kelly being, a few years younger than Fife,
and not as injured. Fife come back from 2 broken legs, had hammy injuries, shoulder injuries.
That's a good point. Kelly is durable. So Kelly is durable. Fife has had a few injuries. Freo have been a little bit unlucky, haven't they? Morabito was a super talent.
Oh, he was good, and then just his knee.
Yeah, so he came up in the same draft year as Nat Fife, and they were really good friends. And I tell you what, Morabito had so much talent.
Incredible amounts of talent.
I mean, he was a great winger, and he could really run with the ball. He had that. When Adam Goods was a little bit younger, he had that Adam Goods nous, and Adam Goods used to have a little bit of speed as well. In fact, Adam Goods even played in the ruck. Did you guys know that? Yeah.
Backline forward,
he played
bench, coach. He did everything.
I could have seen not Morabito in the ruck, but he could have played back. He could have played forward. He could have played on the wing.
I saw him play with half back. That would have been good.
Yeah, just that elite ball use. Chris Yarran was an attempt there by Richmond.
He's going to end up at West Coast or Freo. I know he's retired.
Do you reckon he's going to come back?
Yeah, he's going to do a Mitch Clark.
He's going to come back?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You heard it first at the Playmakers Vault.
I don't think he'll come back straight away. I think it'll be a couple of years, but I think he'll play AFL again, Chris Yarran.
He's such a big talent. Yeah. When he's up and about, loses that weight, gets his head right, I think he'll be... That'd be great to see him again.
But yeah, what I was saying, I'm just not a big fan of Dustin Martin.
No, and Essendon this week... I
think Dustin Martin's gone.
Essendon this week has denied the offer, but I think we're just playing it down.
I think we're still going to... Essendon denied a lot of stuff.
We've denied a lot of stuff, so you can't take it on word.
This is a prediction.
Yep.
Here's a prediction.
Ooh.
Nathan Buckley will coach Gold Coast next year.
Ooh, you know what?
Because I think Buckley has something to offer as a coach, but not at Collingwood.
But he wouldn't be a senior coach at Gold Coast.
No, I think he'd be a senior.
You think he'd be senior coach?
Because I think he has a bit to offer, just not the coach at Collingwood. Because I don't think players should coach the team they come from. There's just it's not.
I feel like he's fallen out of love with too many players there, and it's disappointing this week to see what happened to Fasolo.
Yes, I was just about to mention that. Sorry to interrupt. You go on.
No. It's always disappointing to hear when players are struck with any kind of mental illness.
But it's better now than it was in the past, where players wouldn't come out. Like Buddy Franklin missed a complete final series.
That's right. I think Buddy Franklin was a huge kind of player to come out and say that he was struggling a lot with that, and I think it's given more players confidence now to take some time off and just as tough as you can possibly be in AFL. Even the toughest guys have some dark days, and so it's good for them to get their their heads clear. And we wish Alex the best of luck. And if you go for anything like this, make sure you consult the number. Absolutely,
and that number is Lifeline 131 114 or Beyond Blue, which is 1300 224 636. If anything that we discuss now is troubling you, or you need help, or someone you know needs help, please call those lines. They're great organisations. But Alex Fasolo, so Collingwood released a statement and they said he's going to take a short break. So he's going to continue training. The thing is, with depression, it's not really a one size fits all case. You know, people respond differently to it. There's different severities. So we wish Alex Fasolo all the best there. And it's great that someone like an Alex Fasolo can actually come out and release that to the public, because in previous years, I don't think players would have been brave enough due to the stigmatisation of the issue of depression.
Without a doubt.
So, and I think having players of this stature with the likes of Buddy, it also opens us up to the common people to say that depression can strike anyone, whether you're an AFL footballer or you're just someone, you know, working at another organisation which doesn't have the publicity the AFL does. So, as much as we want Alex Fasolo to do well, he has actually done a good thing for people to say that, you know, depression is something which strikes many people. James Hird as well.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
I think it's a bad illness. It's a horrible illness, but it's good to see that the stigmatisation of the issue is less than it was before.
Well said. And at least it opens the door for the big money man at Collingwood, of course, Christopher Mayne, who will absolutely light the world on fire. Absolutely no doubt about that.
Yep.
He's a beautiful specimen of life.
I can't say that. Chris Mayne, one of my earliest football memories, and I was so shattered when Chris Mayne left, just
Still
because of
in
this
the
moment, was, I remember it was at Etihad Stadium. Freo played St Kilda. And I remember I was a little kid. I was a little young.
Little tacker.
Oh, little tucker, yep. And I went, and I remember walking, and I bumped into him.
Oh.
And I bumped into another Freo player. Clayton Hinkley played like 5 games. Who cares about him? And I met him, and I asked him, "Oh, can you sign this?" And Clayton Hinkley goes, "Chris Mayne's like, nah, mate, we got to go. Yeah, he's a bit of a dickhead. Good thing he doesn't play anymore.
Probably why.
Yeah, and Chris Mayne signed my thing. He was very nice. He was the only Freo player I've ever met twice as well.
Wow.
So I've got a nice memory of Chris Mayne, and Chris Mayne was always one of my favourites just because he was such a nice guy.
That's brilliant.
So I hope he does set the world on fire with Collingwood, just not against Fremantle.
If you bump into him and you're going to the game on the way to China this week, will he sign your Guernsey one more time?
He'll be like, "Are you stupid? I play for Collingwood now."
And you're like, well, you always have a purple heart.
I tell you
always
what,
got a purple heart.
I remember a primary school, Matthew Richardson came down, and
beautiful.
I had a Collingwood jumper. You know what? I made sure he signed it.
Yeah.
You have to. You have to get that. You have to seize the opportunity when it comes. Otherwise, it's like, you know, well, if I should have had a Richmond jumper, but I don't go for Richmond.
No one should have a Richmond jumper.
I just found it, and he was at that time. He was a legend. Like he was. Remember, he reinvented himself on the wing. So Adam Goods. You guys are laughing.
I'm sorry, I did the push in the back.
Oh, the push in the back.
I'm sorry.
No,
I couldn't help myself.
No, that's all right.
For all the listeners out there, we probably, you may have an idea what we're referring to, but no, Richo, absolute legend of the game. Absolute legend of the game. And really nice personality by the sounds of it as well. But whenever, like, I used to go to school at Penley Essendon Grammar School, and that's right across the road from the Windy Hill training ground. Of course, back when I was, you know, in year 1, year 2, when Essendon were absolutely killing it around the 2000s, you know, some of the heroes like Kevin Sheedy, you know, Lloydie and Scott Lucas, some of the big guys, they were there. And I remember I literally had one of my general studies books, and I went there one day to see the training, and Kevin Sheedy comes up to me, and I had nothing else for him to sign but my general studies book. He ended up signing some page from it. So
good on you.
I've looked for years to try and find it, and just the other day I found it.
I've got a story about Kevin Sheedy. My grandfather had a stroke, like this is years ago. He's dead now, but yeah, he had a stroke years ago.
Sorry.
He had a stroke years ago, and Kevin Sheedy was actually in the hospital at the time as well. Like he visited someone. Yeah, so Kevin Sheedy had his own stuff. I can't remember who called him. I wasn't even alive, but yeah, he came in and took a photo with my dad's family and my grandfather. I've never heard a bad thing about Kevin Sheedy as a person. No,
he's a really nice guy.
So I have. Well,
huge extrovert though.
The whole thing about saying Hawthorn was taking drugs back in the 80s, which came to backfire a few years later.
It certainly did. Karma works in a strange and familiar way, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely. And boys, you know, we haven't talked about on this show thus far European soccer.
Oh,
So
European soccer.
European soccer.
Talking my pretty Saxon over. Let's get this show
How
on the road.
about we just talk posh at the moment? I don't think I can really pull it off.
So the EPL wrapped up the other day. It was a swelling old time with Chelsea winning the championship once again.
Once again.
But the big story of the year is Manchester United won the
Europa League. The Europa League. So,
jolly good show.
Yeah, jolly good show. So this sends them back into the Champions League, and Manchester United. That's where they belong. I mean, if you have that much money in sponsorships, you have to make sure that you finish in the top four. I mean, this comes back down to the salary cap issue. In soccer, it's completely different to the AFL. The bottom teams, there's apart from Leicester, there's very few teams who make it all the way to the top due to the amount of finances available in European soccer. The academies as well, there's not really a draft system per se like the AFL. So yeah, Manchester United won the Europa League. They won it convincingly. And, you know, they've got some really solid players.
They
in
bet
Martial.
Ajax spray and wipe as well, which is a very big performance from them.
Yes. Ajax, I mean, I think it's pronounced Ajax, but I could
Ajax.
be Ajax.
Ajax playing one, that's it.
Someone on YouTube can tell me how to pronounce
you
that.
just went sprayed them all off.
But Ajax, they have a lot of young players, so coming up against the like of Manchester United, it's not one of the worst things in the world to lose against that team of that stature who shouldn't be playing Europa League football in the first place. So they've won the title. They've got a gold ticket into the Champions League. And I think the biggest discussion point is the fact that Arsene Wenger, so he's been involved at Arsenal for so many years now.
96?
Since 96, Liam. So that's when I was born. So that gives you an indication of
Getting old.
Loyalty there. And he could be going because Arsenal haven't made the Champions League for the first time in ages, in however many years. So actually, you know what? Just here, Arsenal manager agrees to 2-year contract. So
let's just dump that and we'll continue on.
So Arsene Wenger. So there was talk though before that that he would actually be going because fans were protesting, and generally, boys, you know, with the AFL, when fans protest, there's pressure on the board to actually make a decision there. But no, Arsene Wenger has agreed to sign a 2-year contract, and it says Arsenal are planning to make an official announcement on Wednesday. I think England, they might be a day behind us. Is that, or
12 hours?
12 hours, sorry. I always get confused though because when you try and watch the EPL, it's generally past midnight in Australia. So yeah, and also in the UFC, guys, Robert Whittaker is confirmed to have that shot against Yoel Romero.
Las Vegas!
In Las
Vegas. Viva Las Vegas. This is going to be great.
This is going to be great.
The sales of Vegemite are going to go through the roof when this happens.
Absolutely. He's going to represent the Vegemite company well, no doubt.
Well.
And, you know, Yoel Romero is a fearsome opponent, guys. I mean, Michael, you have your laptop there. Look at the size of this man. You're going to be very surprised. Yoel Romero. He is an absolute tank for 40 years of age. And
that's the thing. We were talking about this last week, 40 years of age. If I'm looking that good at 40 years of age, wow, I'll be very, very happy. He does not look 40. He has got a sensational rig.
He is called the Soldier of God. I mean, is he a model or
He's
what?
actually saluting in many of his photographs. Saluting, of course, the big man upstairs. And the big man upstairs is certainly giving this man a lot to look forward to. He'll still be fighting at 60. He's doing well here.
Oh, he signed a 100-year contract. He's all good.
It's like a Buddy Franklin, isn't it?
Makes Buddy Franklin's contract look pretty cute.
So the Aussie, has his work cut out for him.
He does.
Certainly does.
Yoel Romero. So Yoel Romero's on an 8-fight winning streak, and Robert Whittaker's
He's
on.
He's lost one match in his entire career. So
yes. So
doing okay.
So
doing all right.
And Whittaker's on a 7-fight winning streak. But if Whittaker wins against Yoel, he's got a Willy Wonka ticket to fight Michael Bisping, who doesn't want to face Yoel Romero. Stylistically, it's a bad matchup for him. Yoel Romero is more a wrestler. He's obviously an Olympic wrestler as well, or used to be. So Michael Bisping would prefer Robert Whittaker because he's more of a stand-up fighter, whereas Yoel Romero is just an absolute tank when it comes to wrestling. So Michael Bisping will certainly be hoping, I would think, that Robert Whittaker beats Yoel Romero. I think if Michael Bisping takes on Yoel Romero, you could be seeing a new champion there. But Whittaker's a different story. I mean, I feel kind of bad because I've been doubting Whittaker for a little while. Before he faced Derek Brunson in Melbourne, I thought that Derek Brunson would win that fight. I thought that Derek Brunson, he's about 6 years older than Whittaker, and he has that experience whereas Whittaker doesn't. But he main evented the card after Jacare and Luke Rockhold were absent, which was half the reason why I bought the tickets. But this can happen anyway. Whittaker surprised me. He beat Brunson, and then he beat Jacare. Jacare, if he doesn't get you to the ground, he's in trouble because as much as he is good at jiu-jitsu, his stand-up compared to the elite fighters is not quite on par with the likes of Michael Bisping, Luke Rockhold, and as it is proven with Robert Whittaker. So, can Robert Whittaker get up?
He needs to stay up. That's I think that's the secret. That is the secret here because he's such a good fighter when he's on his feet and he's, delivering the punches. But, yeah, I feel like because Yoel Romero is just so good on the ground with that wrestling kind of pedigree. So if Robert Whittaker can really get to him early, I think that'll be important.
I think statistically...
Can he go the distance, though? That's what I'm wondering.
I think statistically, with the win-loss record, it's looking unlikely, looking like he has a bit of an issue.
Yeah, the win-loss record, I mean, you're talking about Whittaker here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Whittaker, he also, before he went to the middleweight division, he went to... he started out in the welterweight division in the UFC, so he cut a little bit more weight. He lost against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who was in welterweight title contention 2 times, only to lose to Tyrone Woodley. But Whittaker at middleweight looks like a different man. He's not having to cut as much weight. He's got dynamite in both of his hands. And if he launches, you fall down. So it's as simple as that. Yoel Romero, he can certainly withstand a punch, as he proved with Chris Weidman, who's a very good striker indeed, and former champion as well. So Yoel Romero wants this title shot badly. Who wants it more, Yoel Romero or Robert Whittaker? I'd say that the young kid who... He hasn't been in the Olympics like Yoel Romero has, and I think youth might actually be an advantage to him. I don't really think it's an experience thing because despite Yoel Romero being 40 years of age, the UFC is only past 20 years since its first inception, really. So Yoel Romero has had a similar amount of experience in comparison to Robert Whittaker in the game of mixed martial arts. I reckon experience is not going to be a factor. It's whoever is going to perform the best. And the game always starts standing up. And if it stays up, like Michael says, we could be seeing Australia's first interim UFC title holder. And I'll tell you what, interim is a philosophical debate. I actually don't mind the interim belt.
No,
so the interim belt is the number 1 contenders belt.
Probably inspired by Rocky.
By Rocky, yeah, which solidifies the contenders spot. What are your thoughts on that? Should they have a number 1 contenders belt?
Yeah, I think they should. It's good to know who the number 1 contender is. And I know I said before, I can't remember who we were talking about, but I like when 2 people fight. I don't like when that one person comes in and gets the title shot automatically. I can't remember who it was. A few weeks ago we were talking about it. But I'm all for it. I'm all for... You fight for the number 1 contender spot because shouldn't just be given it. You fight for it, and then if you don't get it, you go back down the pedestal.
That's right.
And someone else gets it, And it's the whole, it's the whole point, especially as a big champion, you're being the hunted.
Yeah, and George St. Pierre is the one you were thinking of there, Liam. So they've scrapped that fight. So this is why the interim title between Whittaker and Yoel Romero, pardon me, is going to happen because George St. Pierre says he's not ready till later in the year, and the UFC said, nah, that's too long. We're going to continue on with this division. And because Michael Bisping has already defended his title against a number 14 ranked fighter in Dan Henderson, who has since retired after that fight. So Dan Henderson is about 46 years of age now, and he almost won the middleweight title. And if he retired with the middleweight belt, that would have been in further limbo because it would have just been hanging in the air for someone to get. So, some consider this title between Yoel and Robert Whittaker to be the belt to get. So some people, when Conor McGregor, I keep referring to Conor McGregor because I love him. He started off, he claimed himself as the champion basically when he won the interim belt because Jose Aldo didn't fight. Robert Whittaker could have claims there. I think when Bisping recovers, he will have to fight the winner of Yoel and Robert Whittaker because they actually have the belt. It solidifies their position. And in mixed martial arts, as a promotion, they don't necessarily give it to the number one contender all the time. So I reckon the interim belt is crucial. Yeah,
I agree.
Sorry, I'm just watching Jacare Souza versus Robert Whittaker here. It is, wow. He's got some talent. And when Robert Whittaker has got him down right now, he's just going for him. And he does not hold back. And I think the young man, he's going to get a streak in him. He's going to get that confidence up, and he's just going to go bang, bang, bang.
No, I see. I'm tipping
one strike after the next.
The old man, the experience.
He should do it.
One loss, you can't. One loss, it's.
Does Robert Whittaker get chirpy? Does he?
You're like, good day, mate.
Implement a bit of.
To be honest, he's quite a cool character. He's quite a role model in comparison to some other fighters. Even when he beat Jacare, he was very respectful of him. Said it was an honour to fight him.
That's weak.
He bowed down to him. I can see Liam's point because there's also a factor of selling the fight.
Yeah, UFC is a sport or a competition for characters.
Yeah, bad blood sells.
You got to be, even though a lot of it's probably fake. I know you mentioned a few real life views. There's a lot of them that's probably made up. It's made up. A lot of people probably don't hate each other, and you really can't hate each other if you're going to punch someone in the face for sport.
That's exactly right. Yeah. It's not fun to get punched in the face.
It tickles. It feels lovely.
Yeah, so, definitely there's a factor there. But there's also something of staying true to yourself too. But sometimes that's not a good thing in a promotion sense. If you were a UFC fighter, guys, and you were promoting a fight, would you stay true to yourself and be kind of generous and nice to your opponent? Or would you say to your opponent at the back, hey, let's promote this fight. Let's give each other a bit of banter. Let's go back and forth. Because it is a bit of an art perfecting promotion because you can be true to yourself and not be that popular, or you can go outside of who you are and get more money as a result. What would you do?
Well, I mean, if you look at just the success of Conor McGregor and just how he, over both codes of the fighting realm, he's just been able to be this really strong personality. Even when he doesn't fight some of his best fights, he's still very much in the face of all the fighters that he's against, and even ones that he's not really that involved in. He's just such a entertainment machine to watch, and there's so many compilations on YouTube and on different videos and on news sites of just all the stuff he said, and he's a talented fighter, but above all, he's just got one of the greatest mouths in the game.
Oh yeah, I agree. But see, I'm a bit of a smart ass myself, so I'll definitely go for the chirpiness. I love the chirpiness. Yep, you got to give it to him. Tell him that the week is pissed.
You got to ask him to beat you to a pulp.
Yeah,
that's the way you got to do it.
And Conor McGregor has that that Irish background in him, so the Irish, they know how to give it.
He's got the eye of the leprechaun.
That's a very good play.
The last thing we'll probably talk about before we head off here, well, before I head off, I'm not back at all next week, but tonight's the start of State of Origin.
Yes.
Time for a lot of Victorians to only know the two Storm players who play, and Jonathan Thurston, who's not playing, and they probably think he retired because he's not playing. So it's going to be good for the Victorians who know nothing about rugby league to really follow it.
It'll be good. Look, State of Origin's always such a big event, and where's it being played tonight? Is it in?
I think it's MCG.
MCG. Yeah. Wow. They'll get some big fans there. Yeah, it did seem today like there were a couple of ferals around the street, so it does make a little bit of sense that that's on tonight.
Oh, Collingwood's having an open training session. Good. It's good to know.
Collingwood training session, State of Origin. You know, it's all of the evils coming together as one. No, it's always a big spectacle, and any big event, even the ones that are international soccer that comes to the MCG, it's always such a big occasion. The MCG's still to this day the best place to watch. Best place to watch sport, best stadium in the world.
Speaking of rugby league, as much as we were talking about State of Origin, last week, and I was meant to bring this up, this American guy made a list of the top, I think, 50 best sport teams. Collingwood's 1927 to 1930 team was on there.
Oh, yeah.
But St. George's 11 premierships in a row was not on there. Absolutely
11 premierships.
How do you win 11 from 1966 to 1956 to 1966? How do you not get even that's one of the best teams of all time?
Is this Australian or international?
No, in the world, in history. So they have like the Boston Celtics when they won, I think 8 or 9.
Is it the top 50 or top?
Yeah. Manchester United, were they?
I think there was a Manchester United team in there. The latest All Blacks team, the current All Blacks team was in there.
So the Collingwood team you're alluding to, they won 4 premierships in a row. The only ever team to do that in the AFL, VFL. Yep. That's a notable, inclusion. 11 in a row, not noted. That's interesting.
Won the 1928 season undefeated.
Wow.
So, they won the finals, but they went the home and away season undefeated. The only team to ever do so. But St. George, I just thought they got really tough.
Wow, that is
I think this American guy didn't do his proper history here. Proper research.
No, probably not. Not many sides can do 11 in a row, season in, season out.
I think all but one they finished minor premiers as well. So it's not like they did at Brisbane and didn't finish first. No, they finished first. They were the best team for 11 years, 11 seasons.
We're going to have a chat to the Americans about that.
Teams can be able to be the best team for 3.
How can you compare, different eras? Like it's hard sometimes to note, like if you're comparing Collingwood's premiership run back in the 20s, late 20s. So to compare to Hawthorn's, I've only really seen Hawthorn, so I can only really say that Hawthorn is definitely right up there in terms of AFL history. I mean, their winning streak was superb, especially with how professional football is now.
It is.
So whereas
with the current system in place, there shouldn't be teams like Hawthorn winning 3 premierships in a row and being up there for so long. And so you probably got to give them a lot of credit in this modern era for doing so.
Oh yeah, it'll be the last time you probably ever see it. Yeah. I know people said that when Brisbane won, but it'll be probably the last time you ever see. Oh, I got GWS. But GWS, they're a different boat than they were the other teams because they're this expansion team with all these players who got picked up in the 1 or 3 drafts.
But getting back to your point, Jonathan, it is a good point that you make about comparisons to different eras because different eras are very, very different. And so, this modern era, they're trying to level out the playing field. You look at this season in the AFL, just how close it is because so many teams are on level playing fields. So, it's certainly, they've made it a lot harder now for, teams to win 11 in a row, as you said there.
Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Liam, we just want to thank you again for an amazing season from you. We are going to miss you when you're over in China. Obviously, you won't be able to message us on Facebook.
I'll be able to.
You'll be able to?
Message us in Chinese.
Yeah. I'll have a VPN. So I'll be fine.
Well, don't become a citizen then. But we are going to miss you. Thanks again for all of your hard work over the week. And we do wish you the best of luck over there. And obviously, hopefully Fremantle play well whilst you're away.
Why? They haven't started now. Why would they?
Yep, that's very true. All right, and of course you can listen to Jonathan and I next week when we do another gigantuan show from Sin Nation Studios.
Yes, this is Playmakers Vault here on Sin Nation.